Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Price Check Sports Podcast here on the In the Zone Network, where we go city to city, state to state, worldwide. Back today to talk about, an Elite Eight that absolutely lived up to the hype on the women's side of the NCAA tournament bracket. We'll also get into a little bit of a recap of the men's Elite Eight as well, talk about those Final Four games coming up this weekend, and also touch on a little bit of NBA before we end the show. But ladies first, we got to talk about some great basketball that we saw from the women. Really this whole tournament, but specifically culminating in last night's Elite Eight matchups. We got the matchups that we really wanted to see on that side of the bracket. We had, of course, LSU Lady Tigers going up against Iowa Hawkeyes, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Title game rematch from last year. Of course, LSU won the national championship last year. That game 102-85. Fortunately for them, the Iowa Hawkeyes got a little bit of revenge last night, winning that game 94-87 behind a masterful performance from Caitlin Clark. 41 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists. She's making all the right plays, making big shot after big shot. She's pulling up from 30 feet. She's, coming off of screens, letting it fly. She's stepping back. Just every shot you can think of, every play you can think of, she made it for him last night. Unfortunately for LSU, Haley Van Lith was the sacrificial lamb for that game, left on the island with Caitlin Clark much of the night. Not sure if she read the scouting report that the rest of the team read, but not necessarily just on her. I know it was pretty easy for her to get picked on social media last night during that game, but just regardless of how you slice it, crazy performance from Caitlin Clark. Now, Angel Reese also had a pretty good performance on her end as well. 17 points, 20 rebounds, 3 blocks, had a couple steals from there as well. Really, the game kind of switched up. Kind of 2 inflection points here on this game last night. First, really, I'd say midway through the second quarter, Angel Reese rolls her ankle going for a block on Caitlin Clark. You can tell that LSU kind of lost a little bit of their energy once that happened. You also could tell just as we got closer to halftime and that game started to speed up, the pace really picked up in that game. They were going up and down, just 100 miles per hour the entire first half. You could start to see that energy draining slowly but surely from LSU. And it was an Iowa team that was up for the challenge, man. So, Caitlin Clark and that team moving on to their second straight Final Four, just the third Final Four for them in team history. They are going to now see the Yukon Huskies, who won the second game of last night's doubleheader on ESPN. You saw Paige Buckers and that Yukon team now advancing to their 23rd Final Four. And I saw some tweet like their first Final Four since 2022. Well, whoop-de-doo, 1 year drought. Good for them, man. But UConn continues to add to their historic background and precedent, going to a 23rd Final Four. They take out Juju Watkins and USC last night. Now, Paige Buckers went absolutely nuts. Not only did she drop 28 points and 10 rebounds, she was guarding Juju Watkins for much of that game, made a lot of just really instinctive plays. You could tell she watched or listened to the scouting report, paid attention to it very closely. There's a lot of plays where her anticipation was able to allow her to get steals, make the right play at the right time on defense, and then really just made every play and every shot that UConn needed on the offensive end, and showing why she was the player of the year as a freshman at UConn prior to her ACL injury. So, this UConn team, this is not one of Gino's most stacked teams, not one of the better teams they had. Honestly, a lot of people probably thought this was going to be a little bit of a down year for UConn, and they showed up last night. Now, of course, Juju Watkins still had a hell of a game, 29 points, 10 rebounds herself, did not shoot very well from the floor, but really the only, offense that USC had was her and Forbes, the other guard for them. So, not a whole lot of offense from USC, but I think that team, as they start to get other transfers in, as they start to hit that recruiting trail even harder, they're going to have a team around Juju here and be a team to be reckoned with across the nation here over the next couple of years while she's still in school. So definitely big shout out to Juju Watkins with the impact that she made as a freshman on the entire game of women's basketball this season. But Now the Final Four is set. You got South Carolina taking on NC State. NC State, man, shout out to Isaiah James. She had a crazy, crazy game to knock out Texas on Sunday. And then, of course, Lady Gamecocks continuing that undefeated season and trying to roll into another national championship game, a national championship game that famously they were left out of last year thanks to Caitlin Clark. So, got South Carolina, NC State on one side. You got Yukon and Iowa on the other side. Let's be honest. I think this is we need South Carolina versus Iowa in the national championship game. Caitlin Clark, of course, needing that championship to kind of really solidify her college legacy once and for all. And then, of course, the Gamecocks trying to finish off a historic undefeated season, get back to that college mountaintop and getting that championship under their belt. And, of course, getting their revenge on Caitlin for the loss that she handed them last year to end another undefeated season. So, I think that's kind of where my gut is leaning in terms of the prediction, right? I think it's going to be Iowa versus South Carolina. Would not surprise me based on how UConn played last night if they got past Iowa. I think, Paige Buckers was outstanding. The way she played defense, if she can do that against Caitlin Clark, I think that game is definitely much more interesting, and that outcome is a lot more in the gray area than most people would probably think. But I think there's no stopping South Carolina for NC State. As great as NC State has played, especially the last two games against Stanford and Texas, I don't think that they have the horses to be able to get past that South Carolina team on the other side. So prediction on the women's bracket, South Carolina versus Iowa in the national championship game. Now, switching gears quickly to the men's tournament, NC State's men's team also making the Final Four here after a win over Duke over the weekend. They are going to take on Zach Edey and Purdue, who put up, 40 and 16, crazy numbers to take out Tennessee on Sunday. So Purdue making their first Final Four appearance, I believe, since 1983. Crazy work for Zach Edey in that game. It's going to be a nice matchup between Purdue and NC State, two teams that have not been there in quite some time. And then on the other side, of course, UConn and their men's team, who's just been absolutely ripping through teams in this tournament. They went on a 30-0 run against Illinois, man. 30-0 in a college game. So we're not talking about 12-minute quarters here in the NBA, anything like that. We are talking about, and this is all in the second half, mind you. They went, I can't remember the exact amount of game time, but in terms of real time, Illinois went 50 minutes without a score. Pretty insane work if you're UConn, man. And I don't think, I know they'll be playing Alabama on their side of the Final Four. I just don't, I said it last week, I'm going to say it again. I don't know that there's anybody in the country right now that can beat UConn's men's basketball team. I think in terms of the teams that we have remaining, Purdue is probably the best matchup because then you can get Klingon versus Edey and having those two big men kind of battle it out. But I think UConn, they just have too much, and they execute at a high level. Their game plan is never flawed. They have all the right moves. They, again, make all the right decisions on the court. And right now, I can't pick against UConn. So, men's side, I don't care what matchup happens. Give me UConn and give me the points every single game the rest of the way here in the Final Four. Because, again, Alabama, they can score with anybody. We know that. But I don't think they have the size to be able to compete with UConn. And then, like I said, whoever comes out of Purdue and NC State, good luck. That's just what it is. I know not much analysis on that one, but UConn is definitely head and shoulders the best team in the men's bracket. So let's see if they can pull off the repeat here and get a second straight national championship. So now, got to switch gears into the NBA.
Woj, what can you tell us about Embiid, who's been out since January 30th with a knee injury?
Hey, Jay, I'm told that Joel Embiid's return to the Sixers lineup is imminent. It could come as soon as tomorrow night against the Oklahoma City Thunder in Philadelphia. But the expectation is Joel Embiid will be back this week
Joel Embiid, of course, making his return from a meniscus injury here this week. Breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN yesterday. I'm interested to see how this actually plays out for Philly because I believe they are a game out of the 6th seed right now. Or I'm sorry, 2.5 games back of the 6th seed in the East. So right now they're kind of stuck in that play-in matchup. But if I'm being transparent here, Boston is the 1 seed right now. Milwaukee's sitting at 2. I'm either of those teams. Philly is not the team I want to see with a healthy Joel Embiid coming out to play in. Just putting that out there. Not really the team that I want to be matched up with coming out of play in. But also, if you're Philadelphia, do you think Joel Embiid is healthy enough at this point, not only to sustain this next week and a half to end the regular season, but to really make a playoff push through the play-in and through the first couple rounds of the playoffs where you're going to see, like I said, potentially Boston, Milwaukee, and then, of course, if you do get to the second round after potentially playing one of those teams, you're looking at the Knicks or, Cavs, maybe not so much a fear on that side, but it's going to be a long, path for them to be able to get to, second round conference finals or potentially NBA finals, especially starting in that play-in group. Now, if they can get out of the play-in, which, of course, not totally out of realm of possibility, but just kind of running out of games to be able to get this done. If they're the 6th seed and I'm Cleveland in the 3 seed, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that matchup one bit. So we'll keep an eye on how that plays out. But I do think Joel Embiid is going to be obviously a positive impact for Philly. Maybe for me, I wouldn't have brought him back. I think I might have just go ahead and waited out to see what that meniscus and that knee looks like going into next season. Give him a full not only end of this season but full off season to rehab and really get back healthy and get into the best shape that he could possibly be going into next year. But of course, right now he's probably trying to win a championship too. So gotta love the competitive spirit from Joel Embiid as he plans to return as soon as potentially tonight. We'll keep an eye out on that news as they are supposed to play the Oklahoma City Thunder on tonight's slate. So speaking of tonight's NBA slate, couple games that we really want to keep our eye on here, mainly Western Conference again, but these are 3 games that I picked out that have kind of the most impact on the playoff race here tonight in the NBA. So first, you got Knicks versus Heat in Miami. Miami had a game back of Indiana for the 6th seed, so of course they are right there in front of Philly right now. Of course, Philly, again, as we mentioned, playing Oklahoma City tonight in Philly. Miami a game back of Indiana for the 6th seed. New York Knicks half game ahead of Orlando right now to hold on to the 4 seed. They are also a half game back of Cleveland to try to propel themselves into the 3 seed. So some playoff positioning definitely on the line here as we wind down to this last week or so of the regular season. The Knicks, they again, with the way that they're positioned, this thing can kind of go either way for them. Of course, they're trying to get their full team back up to full health. So we'll see, how that plays out for them. But I expect Jalen Brunson to have a major performance here tonight. And I would hope Jimmy Butler kind of starts to find that playoff Jimmy, persona and that fire a little bit here in tonight's game. We haven't really seen that much from him in the Miami Heat so far this season. But I do think both of those teams will be up to the task in tonight's matchup. Now, shifting over to the Western Conference, 2 matchups on that side of things. One, you got Clippers versus Kings, which the Clippers 2 games ahead of Dallas right now, who Dallas is rocketing it up into the 5th seed. Clippers now 2 games ahead of them for 4th in the West, which, of course, if they matched up, these 2 teams are now just kind of jockeying for who's going to have home court advantage in that first round matchup as 4 or 5 seed. And then, of course, you got Sacramento. They are a game and a half ahead of the Lakers right now for the 8th seed in the Western Conference, and only a half game back right now of Phoenix for the 7th seed. Of course, Phoenix getting a big win last night over the Pelicans. Devin Booker went crazy, by the way, too, dropping 52 points on the Pelicans. Whatever it is, he sees nothing but, dinner plates and napkins whenever he matches up with the Pelicans. I think this is his third 50-point game against them in the last couple seasons. So you got that matchup with Clippers and Kings, and then to cap off the night, you got Warriors versus Mavericks. Dallas, as we mentioned, half game ahead of New Orleans, not only for the division lead, but for the 6th seed in the Western Conference as well. And then you've got Golden State a game and a half back of the Lakers right now for the 9 seed in the West. So, again, a lot of teams jockeying for position. Dallas has been the most dangerous team in the Western Conference here the last few weeks. The Warriors, of course, starting to find their footing again after having a little bit of a rough stretch. Hopefully for them, putting the Houston Rockets in their rearview mirror just a little bit further as they try to increase that lead on that final play-in spot. So a lot of matchups that we're going to be paying attention to tonight. A lot of good basketball on the horizon this week, not only in the NBA, but, of course, leading up to the Final Four in both the men's and women's tournament this upcoming weekend. So, as you know, we're going to be watching it all here this week on The Price Check. But that'll do it for today's episode. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, all the above here on The Price Check YouTube channel. We're going to continue to crank this content out, man. We got big playoff races coming here in the NBA. And as we mentioned, the finale here of the NCAA tournaments coming, Final Four this weekend, and championship games here on Sunday and Monday. So stay tuned. Make sure you lock in not only on all the basketball, but with the Price Check. So, till next time, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Price, check it out.